In this video, we want to create a custom transition using Luminosity. As you probably know, my preference is to not use a lot of different transitions. In fact, I just like to cut from one screen to another. However, a lot of folks like to use different transitions. And while Camtasia has a lot of great transitions, including some new ones, what we want to do is perhaps create a custom transition. Now, the way we're going to do this is with Luminosity. So here in Chapter 7, we've talked about removing a color. In this case, Luminosity is going to remove either the light parts from a video or the dark parts from a video. So what I did was I went over to pexels.com and I typed in blue ink drop and clicked videos. I see this is the blue ink drop video that I wanted, so I downloaded this video first. Next, take this and just pull it into the media bin. So here in Camtasia, I'm going from this screen over to this screen, and I want to transition from one to the other. Now I'm going to start with this video that I pulled in. Now I'm going to put this video on track 3 because I'm going to need a track below it here in a moment. It's recorded at a higher frames per second, 60 frames per second, and it's asking me, do you want to keep your project at 30 FPS, 30 frames per second, or change it to 60? I like to produce things in 30 frames per second, so I'm going to leave that alone at 30, and I'm going to click continue. Now, when I look at the beginning of this, there are a lot of white frames here at the beginning that I don't need. So I'm going to use the period key on my keyboard to go to the right one frame at a time until I find the first image. So here I can see there's the first thing that's different on my screen. So I'm going to go back one frame and just check. Yep. So this is the first frame. Because this is the first frame, I'm going to trim that first part. Now I want this transition to be 1 second long. So I'm going to drag this out until my duration is 1 second. And then I'm going to split that video. So I'm going to press the S key on my PC, or you could press Command T on your Mac. And because I don't need this other clip here at the end, I'm going to just double click that and press the delete key. So all I need is this 1 second video of this ink going out. All right, that's the first thing. So let's drag this so that these items align at the end. So the end of this first video corresponds with the end of this transition video that I'm going to use. Now, what I want to do is have this screen and then fade into this screen. Now to do that, I want them both to be shown at the same time. So I'm going to move this screen up and put it directly under this transition so that the beginning of this clip corresponds with the beginning of this clip. All right, so we have the two beginnings here and then the two ends here. To make this transition, we're going to use Luminosity, and Luminosity is going to pull out either the light parts and show what's below the white parts, or pull out the dark parts and show what's below the dark parts. So what I'll do here is I'll just go over to the eye icon for this track and I'll right click it and I'll try Luminosity. So I see here at the beginning, this was almost completely white, and I see this little bit of the transition starting. And what I see is the complete second screen. Well, that's the opposite of what I want. I don't want it to show through everything that's white. Instead, I want it to only show through the darker parts. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to right click on the eye icon and go from Luminosity to Luminosity Invert. So now I see that it starts here with this screen that I had before, and I'm going to go one frame at a time and see that it transitions over to this second screen, and that's what I want. Now when I get to the end, it's not completely transitioned over. So if I go one frame to the end, it's not exactly where I want it to be. So what do I want to do instead? Well, if I want the whole screen to be shown here, what I'm going to add is an animation. So I'm going to press Shift A while this is selected. So that adds the animation, and I'm going to move this animation over so that it's only about half that time. So it's only going to be half of a second, or 15 frames. So as this drop comes in, it spreads out, and then what I want it to do is fade out as it gets here to the end. So I'm going to move this animation and leave just one frame there at the end. At this point, I want to see everything that's on track 2. So I'm going to grab the opacity and just drag it all the way down to nothing. So that's completely showing everything through here. So now when I look at this, it comes through, it splashes out, and then it fades into the second image. So let's just play through that one more time. We'll go here to the beginning. And that's a pretty cool transition. If we like this transition and we want to use it for future videos, we want to capture it and put it into our library. So let's look at a way to reuse this transition. So here in Camtasia, what I'm going to do is go to where this second track is, and I'm just going to split it here at the end so that this time corresponds with the time of the transition. Then what I want to do is just change this clip to a placeholder. So I'm going to right click and I can choose to convert to a placeholder. So let's see what happens when we use this as a placeholder. So that worked out fine. Now that we have this placeholder, What we'll do is we'll select these two items, the transition and its placeholder, and we're going to group them. So I'll use Control-G to group. Then I can just right click and add it to a library. So I'm going to add it to a demo library, and I'm going to call this Ink Drop Transition and click OK. Now that we've created this custom transition and put it in our library, how are we going to use it in the future? Let's create a new project. File, new project, and what I'll do is I will pull in some files that I want to use. I pulled in a screen recording, and then I want to transition to an image. So I'll go back over to my library, and I'm going to drag that ink drop transition in. And again, I'm going to put it on track 3. I'll leave it at 30 FPS. And then all I need to do is, just like before, I'm going to drag this second clip up. I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to get that first 1 second, or whatever this duration is, to match up with whatever's in the placeholder. So I'm going to split this clip, and I'm going to drag this back down. Now I just need to take this and put this clip inside where the placeholder is. So I'll drag it to where the placeholder is. What you can do in Camtasia 2021 and newer is cut that clip, open up the group, paste it in that group, and then drag that clip to the placeholder. And now if I look, it transitions over to that other item. And again, it doesn't matter if this was a video or if it's an image, the transition is still the same. This video is a part of a larger series called Camtasia Pro. Camtasia Pro is a course that I created specifically for people who want to make professional looking videos with Camtasia. You can learn more about this course at cammastery.com/pro. I hope to see you there.